There comes a moment, child, when a woman must rise from the ashes of someone else's cruelty, not as a victim, but as a warrior of grace. When a man wounds you deliberately or carelessly, the old self may ache to scream, to fight, to prove your worth in the fire he lit. But baby, we are no longer in the business of begging to be seen or explaining why our hearts matter. No, we are queens of resilience, daughters of the storm, and we know the might of quiet strength. This is not about revenge. It is about rising above confusion and pain, so high and so whole that even the one who tried to break you is left wondering how you became untouchable. Let him drown in the silence of your peace, not in the noise of your pain. Let's begin. When a man wounds your spirit, when his words cut sharp or his actions speak of disregard, the most bewildering and powerful thing you can offer is not retaliation, not loud accusation, not even explanation, but silence. Withdraw your reaction. Pull back the raw instinct to prove your pain or plead for understanding. For in silence, there is a thunder louder than rage, a presence more commanding than any performance of hurt. A woman anchored in her worth does not chase closure from the one who caused the storm. She does not beg a mirror for a reflection it refuses to offer. She retreats into her stillness, and there, where no noise can distort her truth, she finds the strength that confuses and unsettles the very soul who tried to shake her. Because silence, baby, is not empty. It is full of decisions. It is where you gather your spirit, where you hold your dignity close like a cloak of protection. The one who hurt you expects chaos. He expects to own your narrative. But when you deny him that script, when you withhold your tears from his hands and your voice from his ears, he is left in the wilderness of his own actions. Your silence reflects back his guilt, his confusion, and his unspoken questions. Why isn't she breaking? Why isn't she reaching? Why does she look freer without me? And it is then, in the quiet, that he begins to feel the weight of your absence more heavily than he ever felt your presence. There is a quiet, unshakable power in a woman who stands tall in her self-respect. She becomes like a tree rooted deep into the earth. Storms may bend her branches, winds may howl through her leaves, but her trunk remains grounded, unwavering. When a man tries to hurt you, to reduce your brilliance to something small, fragile, and uncertain, it is your self-respect that becomes your unyielding shield. You do not collapse beneath his carelessness. You do not shrink to fit his comfort. You stand spine straight and soul unbowed, clothed in the dignity you have earned through every lesson, every scar, every moment of choosing yourself when others did not. He cannot shake what stands firm because your foundation was not built on his approval. It was built on your truth. It was built on the wisdom of ancestors who whispered strength into your bones, on the prayers you cried in secret, on the nights you rebuilt yourself without applause. When a woman knows her value, she does not falter when someone fails to see it. She simply continues to rise. Her posture becomes her protest, her confidence becomes her response, and her peace becomes her weapon. He may have hoped to weaken you, to unravel your calm, but a woman who holds herself in honor becomes untouchable, not by arrogance, but by grace. And that grace, steady and radiant, speaks louder than any confrontation ever could. When the world wounds you, when love turns to cruelty and warmth becomes betrayal, let grace be your armor. Wrap yourself not in anger, but in elegance. Do not lower yourself to the dust where others crawl to provoke. Rise instead, cloaked in the soft thunder of grace, the kind that does not yell to be seen, but is felt in every quiet step you take away from what no longer honors you. Grace is not weakness. It is the divine strength to respond without losing your dignity. to choose silence when chaos tempts you to scream, to walk away, not because you are afraid, but because you are free. And let distance be your shield, not the kind born of bitterness or pride, but the kind crafted from self-preservation, from the sacred understanding that not everyone deserves access to your spirit. Sometimes the greatest defense is not to argue, not to correct, not to prove, but to place space between your peace and their poison. When a man hurts you and expects fire, your calm will disarm him. When he expects need, your absence will confuse him. Distance is not punishment, it is protection. It allows you to breathe again, to remember who you are beyond the heartbreak, to reclaim your rhythm without the weight of someone else's chaos pressing on your chest. And with every graceful step back, you remind the world and yourself that your worth is not up for debate and your soul is not a battlefield. There is a kind of smile that does not come from joy, nor from pretending everything is fine, but from a deeper place, a well of power that pain could not dry up. It is not the smile that hides a wound, but the one that declares, I have survived it. When a man hurts you and expects your spirit to crumble, when he thinks he's carved out your laughter and left you hollow, smile not from desperation, but from the fire of knowing who you are. Smile because you are still standing, because you have not been erased, because even in sorrow you refuse to surrender your light. This smile is your crown, worn not to fool the world, but to remind yourself that nothing and no one can strip away the royalty etched into your being. Let it rise on your face, not like a mask, but like a sunrise, steady, fierce, and undeniable. Smile because your spirit chose not to collapse beneath the weight of someone else's disregard. Smile because you are no longer waiting for an apology or an explanation. You have already stepped beyond the wreckage, already gathered your broken pieces and made something beautiful out of them. Your smile becomes the symbol of a woman who has mastered herself, who has learned that grace can bloom in the rubble, that peace can follow the storm. And in that smile there is thunder, a silent, sacred thunder that says, I am more than what was done to me. There comes a time when a woman must gather all the pieces of herself scattered by heartache, and instead of laying them before someone who mishandled her, she must begin the sacred work of building a fire from them, a fire that warms, that lights, that leads. Invest in your own light, not in explaining your hurt. For every minute spent justifying your pain to someone who caused it is a minute stolen from your healing. You are not a courtroom, and your soul is not a case to be proven. If they did not understand the tremble in your voice or the quiet in your withdrawal, they were not meant to carry the privilege of knowing your depths. There is a divine shift that happens when you stop trying to make someone see what they chose to ignore. When you turn inward, not out of retreat, but out of reverence, you begin to see that your energy is sacred soil, and whatever you plant in it must be worthy of bloom. So plant love, plant stillness, plant vision. Let your hands tend to your own spirit. Let your mornings be filled not with replaying the past, but with preparing for the light you are growing into. Let your thoughts be prayers for your future, not eulogies for what was lost. When you stop explaining your pain and start investing in your light, you reclaim your narrative. You step out of the shadows cast by someone else's carelessness and become the sunrise you were always meant to be. You rise not with noise, but with purpose. You do not demand to be seen. You shine, and the right ones will feel the warmth. There is a sacredness in silence, a holy rhythm in disappearing from the noise of a world that does not know what to do with your brokenness. Heal in private, away from the eyes that only seek drama, not understanding. Find a corner of stillness where no one asks you to explain why you hurt, where your tears fall without judgment, where your soul can breathe without pressure to perform strength before it is ready. In that quiet, let the old pain rise and dissolve like morning mist, not rushed, not hidden, just witnessed by the divine forces that know how to gather your fragments and knit them back together with threads of gold. Let healing be your revolution. Tuck yourself into the arms of solitude, not as one who hides, but as one who prepares, as one who tends to her wounds with sacred hands, who sings to her scars in the language of survival. Do not announce your progress. Let the transformation be your thunder. Let your return be felt before it is seen. And when you emerge, do not explain where you went. Let your peace speak. Let your glow speak. Let the way you walk, the way you breathe, the way you carry your name speak of a woman who went into the wilderness and came out crowned in clarity. For true healing is not loud. It does not perform. It is the quiet rebuilding of your temple, the dusting off of dreams, the soft rising of a soul that has remembered its worth. And when you return, not for applause, but for purpose, you do so in glory, not because you were never broken, but because you made beauty out of the breaking. There is a fire that burns in every soul wounded by betrayal, heartbreak, and neglect, a fire that tempts you to respond in kind, to mirror the harm that was done, to echo the pain that was shouted at you. But you must break the cycle. Do not become what broke you. Do not let their cruelty sculpt your character. Do not let their coldness freeze your warmth. There is no strength in repeating the harm. There is only survival in choosing a different path, a higher one. It takes courage to carry love in a heart that has been pierced. It takes wisdom to hold on to kindness when bitterness feels justified. But your power lies in your refusal to become the thing that tried to undo you. To rise above is not to forget. It is to remember differently, to remember without becoming tethered, to recall without being reshaped into a mirror of someone else's wound. They may have mocked your softness, mistaken your grace for weakness, taken your open hands and returned them empty, but do not let that teach you to close. Stay open, not for them, but for yourself, because who you become after the breaking is your legacy. Let your strength be defined by your ability to hold peace where vengeance once tried to settle, to carry truth where manipulation tried to twist your voice, to keep your heart clean in a world that dirtied it. You are not what they did. You are not their shame or their shadow. You are the sun rising again and again, relentless in your light, refusing to be dimmed. Break the cycle, not because they deserve your grace, but because you do, because your spirit was made for more than pain recycled. You were made to be a new story, one written in gold and grounded in truth, not sorrow passed down. When you decide to become better, not bitter, you don't just heal yourself. You shift the very fabric of what's possible for those who come after you. There is a dignity in restraint, a kind of thunder wrapped in silk, when a woman chooses elegance over eruption. Respond with elegance. Let your absence echo louder than anger. For there is a power in walking away without slamming the door, in removing your presence as the final word, in allowing the void you leave behind to speak volumes in your stead. The world may tell you to fight fire with fire, to shout, to burn bridges, to match disrespect with rage, but wisdom whispers otherwise. It says, preserve your peace, and in doing so, you will wield a strength no fury can touch. Your absence is not weakness, it is clarity. It is the decision to no longer offer your light to someone who could not see it, to no longer waste breath explaining to ears that do not wish to hear. Elegance is not silence born of submission. It is silence born of sovereignty. When you stop reacting, you take back your energy. You refuse to dance in circles of chaos. You become still, not frozen, not afraid, but firm in your knowing. In that stillness, there is grace. In that grace, there is message. And in that message is liberation. When a man expects you to fight, to crumble, to beg, and instead you vanish like the setting sun, leaving warmth but no words, he is left not with victory, but with echoes. He will hear the footsteps of his own choices walking away from him. He will feel the absence of your softness like a cold wind. You do not need to raise your voice to reclaim your power. All you must do is walk in it and let your distance become the loudest thing in the room. Build yourself so high he can no longer reach you, not out of vengeance, but out of vision, not to prove your worth to him, but to remember it for yourself. Let every tear shed in silence become the mortar of your new foundation. Let every moment you doubted your voice, your beauty, your power become the fuel for the fire that now drives you. Rise, not in haste, not in the noise of retaliation, but in the quiet, deliberate act of becoming so full, so luminous, that the version of you he once knew is only a shadow of the woman you've become. You build not with bitterness, but with bricks made of healing. You read, you pray, you dream, you create. You fill your days with growth so intentional that the past begins to feel like a distant country you no longer speak the language of. You invest in your peace like it's a currency no man can touch. You surround yourself with people who pour into you, not those who poke holes in your spirit. And above all, you listen to the voice within, the one he tried to silence, the one that always knew you were destined for more. As you ascend, you begin to see differently. The air at the top is cleaner. Your vision is clearer. You no longer need closure from someone who could not comprehend the vastness of your soul. You don't need an apology, a return, a regret. What you needed was the pain to shake you awake. And now you are not just awake, you are alive. He may look up one day and realize he cannot reach you, not because you are unreachable, but because he never learned how to climb with honor. You build and rise and build again until your very existence becomes a horizon he can only watch from below. Love yourself louder than he could ever silence you. Let your love for yourself be a roaring anthem that drowns out every whisper of doubt he tried to plant, every cruel word that sought to shrink your spirit. This love is not fragile or quiet. It is fierce, unyielding, and unapologetic. It is the kind of love that wakes you up in the morning with a fire in your chest and puts you to sleep with a peace that no one can steal. When you love yourself with this intensity, you build a fortress around your heart,